It's me, Gary, with the Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division HO Scale Model Railroad. Yes, I'm changing things up, as you've been able to tell, and I'm finally recording a video with my shirt I got. I got this from Scott, my good buddy, that from Scott Strains. Anyways, um, as the title says, I'm going to show you how I paint track. So basically, how I go from this to this. Right here, right now on this video. So stick around because we're going to get this video on the tracks. All right, Kansas City Southern Iowa Eastern Division fans, formerly Model Railroad Talk. So how did you like that new intro video? Still giving kudos to my good friend Eric over at the War Bonds channel. He did the original one that if you go back and look at other all videos from this point or before this video, he actually did the intro video for me when it was Model Railroad Talk. And I decided I need to change it since I'm not really doing Model Railroad Talk anymore. I wanted to have something. I liked the music that was with it, but I took it upon myself to, pull the audio from that and pull videos and stuff like that of the railroad, as I've done, and put it in there, sent it over to him to see what he thought, because he did the original one. He liked it. So Eric, thank you for your support on that and doing the original one and finding the perfect music for this. But check him out, War Bonds, right here on YouTube. He's building a 1-inch scale GP60M. Right now, he's kind of in a lull because he's kind of in between with stuff with that locomotive, and being that the weather's starting to change here. It is November right at this point of 2025. So there's not a real big push because obviously a 1-inch scale, I suppose you could run it inside, but it's awful heavy to take in the house and whatnot. But anyways, so as the video says, the title and the intro, I'm going to show you how I paint. You can call it weather the track. I do it without an airbrush. I've done it with an airbrush. In fact, if you look down here, when I originally did this, I got my airbrush out and I painted the rails. And for me personally, while I like the airbrush thing, I think airbrushing is better to do airbrush track before you lay it down, in my opinion, because it's hard to get that perfect angle. You can kind of probably see how it's kind of reddish, right? Compared to the video before, at the very beginning, or the pictures at the very beginning. I wasn't able to get the right angle, and the track just doesn't look right. So I'm eventually going to be repainting all this. But like I showed you up here, I'm going to show you how I do that. First and foremost, this is not I didn't come up with this. I've seen it, several videos on it. So it's not like I created this. So no way am I taking credit for that. Okay. I never would. But it's something that I do, and I found that works the best for me. And let's get started. So first, let's start with why would a person want to paint their track? Okay, there is tons of track out there. You can still find brass around. You probably could find some old steel rail, which I wouldn't suggest using. Brass, I wouldn't suggest for indoor, just because you're going to be cleaning it a lot. But most of the track nowadays, if you're buying brand new, it's nickel silver. So it conducts well. The biggest thing is you got to keep the track clean. a lot of track nowadays, I mean, it comes with most of them, depending on the scale or the code you go with, like an HO scale. If you go code 100, say Atlas, the rails or the ties are going to be black, and your rails are going to be kind of, I don't even know what you would call that color. Not really goldish, but not really silver, you know. So as the name implies, nickel silver, but that's more or less, it's got a nickel coating on it. Um, but a lot of it, your rails bright, and even like I'm running code 83 for track, and a lot of code 83, code 70, code 55, I believe, a lot of those track manufacturers, they will make the ties when they do them, if they're plastic ties, brown, which helps. That's fine. That's great, because it does make a difference. But let's face it, that does not look like the real thing. If you ever take time to go just to a set of railroad tracks, take pictures. Taking pictures will help you figure out exactly what colors you want to go with. Since rails and ties, they all weather differently depending on the ballast and the geographical location and what's hauled on it. You know, I mean, if a section of track is coming out of, well, prime example, we have a quarry that's just south of town a little bit, a huge quarry. And they've got rail cars going in and out of there, covered hoppers, or they're more cement hoppers for the fine stuff that they get from there, gondolas, stuff like that. But if you're driving down that highway, and you will see several miles before and several miles after, and you know, including all in there, the ties are and the rails are even going to be like a lighter gray color, because of all that rock dust and stuff, right, that comes out. But then once you get past that, the rails go back to what a person traditionally thinks of: brown rails, or I'm sorry, brown ties, and the rails are, you know, dark gray, brownish kind of color. But my biggest suggestion is, if you want to, you want your railroad to look good, even if you're new to model railroading, you're building a 4x8 layout and you're using Bachmann Easy Track. What I'm going to show you how I do it. You can do this. It's simple. It only takes, basically, I use 3 colors of a craft acrylic paint, a paintbrush, and some water, a little bit of water. And then I use railroad tie brown, and I'll show you that here in a little bit for the rails. But do your research. Even if you're new, take your phone, take your camera, or your phone or your camera if you got one. Go down. Obviously, do it safely. Don't trespass, or but take pictures of different parts of the rail, and within reason, get as close as you can, even if it's just for the color and whatnot. Then kind of think a little bit. As an example, up here, see here. So this is my main line. Okay, so this is going to have you may notice, I don't know if the camera is really showing very good there, but the ties are a little bit darker. Yeah, the rails are all going to be about the same, but the ties are a little bit darker. Okay, then this is actually a siding track. So this gets used all the time. So this is going to be a little bit better maintained. Oil, grease, stuff like that from cars and locomotives are going to help keep that darker, right? So then this is a siding which doesn't get used as much, but it gets used quite a bit. So the ties are slightly grayer. If you see, I don't know how well the video is showing this, slightly grayer. Okay. Well, this siding, not siding, but this spur, this is my team track. While yes, it gets used, it doesn't get used as much. And let's face it, railroads don't, spurs and stuff like that, they don't get as heavy use as a main line or even sidings. So the maintenance on these are lower on the list. So the ties are going to start getting sun faded, or environmentally faded, as I like to call it, sun, rock, gravel, whatever, rain, so that's why I have if the video hopefully showed that, you can see that there's actually 3 different colors that I have my ties there for that purpose. So I've got my main line, little bit darker on the ties. I've got my siding slightly lighter, not, I wouldn't say necessarily lighter in color, but slightly grayer. And then my side or my spur is more gray. So doing little things like that, those of you that are watching this that are building your own railroad or you have your own railroad, I guarantee you probably understand this, and you probably have your own way of doing it that you want about it. But if you're new to the hobby or getting back into it after several years and you're building, even like I said, a little 4x8 layout or even just a little 2 foot by 4 foot switching layout, painting your track will make a big difference. So go out and do your research, take pictures. If you're able to, if you're modeling where you live, obviously it's going to be easier. You can go take pictures of rail and stuff like that. If you're modeling somewhere else, look online unless you have the ability to go and take pictures and of the rail and the ties and stuff so you can, within reason, match it as closely as you can. Okay, now I said I'd show you what I use. To start out, I use a pallet. To be honest with you, it was a 2-pack. They were cheap off Amazon. They're a little bigger than I like. For me, I wish I would have went like maybe the size of like that square, not the whole thing, but I bought them. I use them. I use, and granted, there again, I got a big old pack of paintbrushes off of Amazon a long time ago. I use a big brush like this. This is probably 3/4 of an inch, maybe. Yeah, 3/4, maybe an inch wide. Just a soft bristle brush, cheapo one. And this is what I use. This is my dedicated brush for the track. Black craft acrylic paint. Any brand will work. These happen to be apple barrel white and burnt umber is what I use for when I'm the initial painting of it. I mix them and I'll show you here in a bit how I actually do it. I've got a section over here that I have ready that I need to paint. So I'll show you here in a minute, but we're going to move on to show you what I use to paint my rails. All right. You may be wondering what color I use for my rails, the rails themselves. So I paint the ties, I paint the whole track. And when I'm painting, and I'll explain this a little bit later, I do paint the rails and everything with that. And we'll go through that process in a bit. But as far as the actual tie edges, it is rail tie brown, but I've got several. So I've got this one, 2 or 3 other actual rail tie brown paints. Nothing wrong with them. They're more spray. This is actually Mission Models. So if you can find Mission Models, rail tie brown. There we go. Rail tie brown. I found that even though this is an airbrush paint, straight out of the bottle, it's the perfect consistency to paint the edges of the rail. If there again, maybe in the pictures at the very beginning, maybe go back to the beginning, click, pause it on one of the pictures. And I believe YouTube here, you can zoom in, but nothing else. You can reach out to me. I can send you pictures so you can kind of see. But that's what I like to use. I just put it in what I like to use is a little like when liquid medicine, like NyQuil cap thing that you, dosage bottle thing. I save those and I just use one of them and dump a little bit in and go. Now, most people will use a micro brush. They think to use a micro brush because you can get in there and whatnot. That can take a while because let's face it, a micro brush, put my little clicker down, a micro brush, yes, while it's good in size, it doesn't have a lot of brush, bristle, whatever you want to call it. So it'll take forever. You're going to be going back to your paint a lot. So I actually found these online. And I'm like, I mean, what they're used for, is, and I'll tell you here in a minute, but I got them. I'm like, I think I can use them because there's times where a micro brush, you wish you had something that was a little bit bigger than a micro brush, but you don't need a full paintbrush kind of thing, right? Boom. I guess women use this to put on liquid lipstick or something. These I bought, oh, I don't remember. It was like a pack of 500 of them, 250 of them, something like that on Amazon for, I mean, it was under $10, right? But if you look, if I can get it to zoom in or focus, it's got the shape, it's kind of angled there. And this whole piece up is bristle, brush, whatever, foam. But I have found that using this, see if I can do it so you can actually see, going along here, it holds more paint, so you can actually go a lot farther instead of dipping all the time. And for at least HO scale, and obviously anything above HO scale, it's perfect for. There are spots like around turnouts and stuff, I do use a micro brush because I need to get in tighter. But for the most part, I can get in tight places pretty good with this, but there's still those spots you need a micro brush. N scale, I'm not 100% sure. You might be able to use one of these on N scale. The biggest thing is when you're painting these, you don't want to, you've got your railroad ties all painted looking the way you want, and after they're dry, you don't want to really go back and start painting over those with rail tie brown, depending on what color you paint your railroad ties, right? Or what color they come out. The spikes that are the factory molded spikes, I don't worry about those. Same with the tie plates. I don't worry about those. Some people do. They'll go back and paint individual ones more of a rust color. Personally, I don't. My railroad's more an operational, and yes, I want it looking real and all that stuff. But for me, I'm not going to go that far. Not cutting down it those that do, but for me, it's too far. It's too far for me to be able to do that. So yeah, I found these actually work really, really well. So I don't know exactly what the term is, but the lip, I guess the way it was described in the deal that I purchased off Amazon is it's liquid lip liner or something like that, brushes. And I guess women use it to put liquid lipstick or whatever on, but they work perfect, at least HO scale and above, putting on the rail tie brown paint on the sides of the rails. So yeah, we're here. You're on the outside of the layout looking in. I'm going to be showing you today on my swing gate here a few things that I would recommend ahead of time is, like, I painted my plywood, if you will, so it didn't look like the plywood Pacific. I painted that first. I would recommend doing that ahead of time. While yes, when I painted the plywood, I still put blue painter's tape down to protect the rails, and yeah, because I didn't really want to get any paint inside the track or the ties there and build up, and it won't look right. But if you do that first, you're still probably down the road going to have to cover your track if you're doing scenery, depending on what you're doing. But at least you get that heaviness, you get that out of the way. So when we go here in a little bit to paint the acrylic on here, we don't have to worry. If we get it on here, who cares? Because it's going to get covered with scenery. Whereas if you have your track painted, because trust me, I have a section over there. I ended up having to go. In fact, the section I showed you in the pictures, I had to go and lay painter's tape down all the way around, make sure it was good before I painted this. Did I have to? No, I could have probably, but I didn't want to take that risk of having drips on there. So that would be my first suggestion. Make sure you have your base paint layer on your plywood, foam, whatever you're using. Have that down and painted first. All right, so now is the point where you can quit looking at my ugly face, and we're actually going to get some stuff done. So what I've got here is, like I showed you, I got my brush, I got my colors sitting over here in a safe spot. Paper towel. You always want to make sure you've got something to wipe up if you happen to mess up. Which this you really can't mess up. Really the most way you can mess up is if you don't like the color. Well, if you end up painting it and you don't, what I suggest is doing a little section of track first. which I've already done, but doing a little section of track, letting it dry. And before you even paint the rail or anything like that, let it dry fully, and look at it. Whatever light you're using for your layout, give it a good look, take pictures, close-up pictures, look at those, zoom in on your pictures and stuff, and see if you like the color. If you're good with the color, just remember kind of what you did. I do have a little bit of white water, just in case I do. So like I like to dip my brush in the water, and I'll actually wring it off a little bit before I dip it in. I like to have my brush when I do this wet. So basically, I really don't use a whole lot of black, but we're going to, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to squirt some black in here. We're going to squirt some, I'll show you here. We're going to actually squirt some white. Shake it up here. We're going to squirt some white in two spots. We're going to squirt some in there, and we're going to squirt some in there. And then, and you don't have to be real picky with this. That's what I like about this. When I seen this online, it's just like, holy cow, that seems easy. Is it really easy? And now the color, I will tell you that you're going to go through the most is, like I said, I'm using burnt umber. I have not been able to find this in these bigger bottles. Doesn't mean they're not out there, but I haven't been able to find it. I did find on Amazon where you can buy like a 12 or 15 pack of this, which I'm going to order because I still have a ton of track to do. So, all right, the one last thing I'm going to show you now, I'm not going to be painting clear into here, and same here. I'm just going to go past enough that, and same with the other side. So that way, at least that section's done, and I moved into the new section, and it gives me an area to blend. So if you're not, so when you get done, find a spot that, or plan a spot that you can, okay, you can come back and blend in, like, you know, if need be. So with my turnout here, all I simply do is take some tape, blue painter's tape, and I cover this up. And then later we'll go back. Now, when I go back later and paint the rails with the rail tie brown, where the ties are are not painted, I just use the rail tie brown. By the time you put ballast on there and you have ballast dust and stuff like that, you're really not going to notice it. So we're going to start over here and work our way that way. So I've got my brush, I've got my paints here. I'm going to, like I told you, I'm going to take this, dunk this in the water to get it wet, and then we're going to wring it off. And once we do that, since I've got this painted, actually, I'm just, for no reason other than I'm just trying to get some of the water out of here, which it ain't going to really affect it at all. I don't want it, I want it just slightly wet. You don't really want it super wet. You just want it for mixing purposes. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mix ourselves a gray. I generally do a medium gray, and once I find the gray that I like, so right now we're going to go a little darker than what, turn this a little bit better for you so maybe you can see it. All right, now that I've got my gray lined up there, okay, I like that. I'm happy with it. And it doesn't need to be mixed completely, because if there's streaks, even better. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to take some brown. We're going to throw some brown. Yes, there's gray. I don't clean my brush. Brown, we're going to add a little white to it. And we're going to kind of load the brush up here. I'm going to add a little more brown to it. Okay. Let's go a tad bit darker there. And I apologize for the shininess. It's kind of probably hard to see the exact color, but yeah, there again, there's no right or wrong, just you have to find what you want. So basically, I kind of do this, wipe it off, right? Because and what my whole purpose here is to have paint loaded up in the brush, gray and the color I'm doing. So as I'm painting, it kind of varies as we go. So basically, I just take this. You don't want to push hard because you'll get a whole bunch of paint in between. So you want to kind of just start on the top. I'm just if you can see, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm just lightly going across the top. And unfortunately, the video is not going to show this, but I'm getting variations in the color, streakiness. Like as good examples right here, I've got a power feeder wire, like right there. I'll make sure I get those painted really well. And the color, you can have the color be all solid one color if you want, or the more you work it, the more the color is going to blend together. Now over here, it started getting a little grayer than I like, because the gray is coming down off the bristles. So I just basically go back here into the straight brown, and oops, I got a little heavy there, which that's not that big of a deal. You just don't want it clumped up. We're going to go back anyways before we start working on the rails, and we're actually going to clean the tops of these rails before. So we'll go down to this bottom one, and then we'll move to the next section. So I'm going to take the color again and kind of get the heavy chunks off. And as Bob Ross used to say, if you know who Bob Ross is, depending on your age, we're painting happy little ties. We're doing happy little ties. And like he said, he always used to say, 2 hairs and some air. And that's kind of what we're doing here, is just very lightly going over it. Yes, like here, I've got PC board ties, so I want to make sure, and that's to keep my track, which those, sometimes if you do have PC board ties like I do here for any purpose, like what I have, you may have to come back over it and hit it again. But there again, in that case, I use just the rail tie brown paint that I use, and just stay happy with it, because the rails, the railroad ties, they change, they're different colors. Some people will say make sure you get in the fronts and the backs of them. I personally don't really worry about that too much, just because if you're going to be putting ballast down, the ballast is, granted, you don't want it clear up depending on what you're doing, or what you're modeling, but still, your ballast is going to fill that up some. So we've got that section done. All right, we're moving on here to the next one. So still using the same paint. I'm dabbing in. I'm going to have it kind of change a little bit, but there again, you don't need, that's why I make the gray. Some people, if you're asking, there again, the reason why I have the gray, I have it loaded in my brush, so it helps kind of make the tie color change as you paint, so it's not just one solid color. Because if you look at railroad ties real close, up and close, like if you're ever able to stop somewhere and look at a set of railroad ties, or a set of tracks that at the railroad ties, I mean, yeah, they're going to have an overall general look to them, color to them, but ultimately they are going to fluctuate in color, because not only you have, like we said, environmental influences, but oil, depending if it's a main line or if it's a siding where a train might be sitting, and that particular locomotive might be leaking some oil or something. It might be a common spot. I'm actually going to push this in, lock my lower swing gate in. There we go. It'll make it easier for up here to do this. But you just have to kind of look at the track you're wanting to model is the biggest thing. Right here with the PC tie boards, I'm actually putting a little bit heavier coat of, sorry, I'm trying not to block the camera, of paint, just because they're a pain in the butt sometimes to cover up. And I've tried with these to clean them with isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, whatever you want to call it. And while, yes, to some degree it does help, they still are they're just a pain. A pain to paint and get paint to stick to. So I generally, that's what I like about using this craft paint, as it it does bite pretty good. And there we go. And so it just, sometimes you have to put it on a little bit heavier. Now this is one of them cases. Most of the time you know, you want to do, when you're painting, especially stuff like that, you want to do it in layers. But in this case, especially painting track, just put it PC board ties. Can't talk. Just put it on heavy. It'll dry. It may take a tad longer to dry. I generally let my this paint, after I'm done painting, I generally let it dry for at least 4 to 5 hours, and I just kind of keep checking on it. The biggest thing is, and like I said, yeah, we've got it on the sides of the rail. Actually, I don't mind it being on the sides of the rail, because it helps the paint that we put on the actual rail to actually stick. The other thing you want to make sure is go back, and I've been kind of watching this as I go, but if you get too heavy, it'll start globbing up where the plastic molded spikes are. So just very lightly, as Bob Ross used to say, 2 hairs and some air, just go over to make sure you got that clear. So then we're gonna, there we go. And this is, I guess the best way to describe this is it's kind of like a dry brushing effect. If you've done any dry brushing, or you've looked into dry brushing for weathering, that's really all we're doing, other than obviously we're using a lot more paint than we do in dry brushing. But just, and don't get in a hurry with it either. This is one of the things where, yes, we all want to get it done because we want our railroads looking good and we want to run trains, but this is one of them things that when you're painting track, this is where my 2 cents worth is, if you are really going this far, take your time painting the track and making sure you don't have paint globbed up, because in the end, you'll be happy. If you get paint globbed up, it's not going to look good, and it could potentially affect how your trains operate. Now, fortunately, because this is this turnout is a Fastrax turnout that I had built. Had somebody build for me, Randy Dolman, and he and I masked that off. I'm doing this the same as I do with my other turnouts, my Atlas ones. Got a little stray something there, and there again, just weathering it. And I've already done this a little bit up here. The ties I've already done. This is where I'm at right now. You can't really see it that well. This is actually my test section for doing this technique, and it turned out so well that well, here I am doing it. So now is a good time to sit and wait. Now we got to let it dry. While this section is drying, I'm going to move around over the other side and continue painting some of that. And next step, we'll be back. I'll show you how I paint the rails. All right. Now that the paint is dry, that is on the tracks, next step is to clean the rails. I'm not going to show you how to do that. Everybody has their own way of cleaning their track. But if you're wondering how I do it, I use, in this situation, I use an abrasive eraser. It's kind of like a Bright Boy. It's the same thing. I buy them off of Amazon. They're basically pencil erasers, but they're designed to take like ballpoint pen ink off. So they've got a little bit of abrasiveness to it. Not going to get into the whole whether to use that or not. I have done this for a very long time with my railroads and never had any issues. So I know with this paint, it's a lot easier using an abrasive eraser, and I don't attack it a whole bunch, like, really, really hard, but it is nice to be able to take the paint off the tops of those rails, and it does it a little quicker and a little less elbow grease and that kind of thing. So I'm going to go get the paint off the top of the rails, and next time this screen flips to the next portion, we're going to be painting some rails. So here we go. All right, so if you're wondering, just got done cleaning my track. This is what it is. It's just a pencil eraser off Amazon. You can buy them 3 packs. I've actually got the one that I just got done using. You can see I've been using this one mostly. And this one, I keep in my little trays. And then I got a cleaner one, if you will, that's on my workbench here, that I'll use it actually not only for cleaning track, but not necessarily on locomotives, but cars, the lettering and stuff. If depending on what kind of look I want, I'll use them to kind of thin out the lettering, the paint on it for like a faded effect kind of thing. So anyways, I've got the track clean now. And now you might be wondering, well, if we're going to paint the rail, why'd you clean it now? Why didn't you wait to clean it? My outlook on that is I'd rather, since the rail transmits, obviously electric in this case, to our locomotives, DCC signals, stuff like that, I want to keep it as clean as possible. And I have found that instead of waiting and letting it build up, so like if we would have just painted the rail and then cleaned it, painted the track and then painted the rail and then cleaned it off, there's a lot heavier of a layer on there that you're going to have to knock off and stuff like that, and it tends to take longer. I found for me, it's better for me to clean the rail between each step. So just my personal opinion, that's it. So let's move on to painting rail. Okay, so we are set up ready to paint rail. So as I said, little I think this is like 4 tablespoon cup from, I don't know, Benadryl or something, So I take my Mission models and I just put I put a little bit in there. I don't do a lot. I don't want it to dry on me while I'm doing this, but it's just easier to control. I don't have to worry about spilling. So I take the brush here and dip it in. Now, when you get a new brush, now you'll go through these brushes. I think the pack I have is like 100 pack, but as you can see, I get a little bit on there, and it's actually real simple. I just kind of start here kind of run it along the top edge of the rail, kind of go back and forth a little bit, and then I kind of switch it over because the paint kind of soaks in, and then kind of back and forth a little bit. Okay, well, it's starting to get a little thin, so I go back to my little cup here. And yeah, I'm running across the top of the rail, and yes, I'm getting paint on the top of the rail, but we'll clean that when we're done. But the rail joiner, which was right here, has almost done everything, but pretty much disappeared just by doing this. And so that's another reason to do this kind of thing. Now, where I just started this, it's kind of built up. So I'll go down a little ways and I'll come back with this brush. And like I said, this is a lip gloss, lip liner, whatever they call it, brush. It's a tad bit bigger than a micro brush. Well, it's a lot bigger than a micro brush, but as far as like the stick itself is about the same size that the micro brush goes on. So I like it for these bigger jobs like this. A micro brush, they have their place, and I use them on my railroad quite often for certain things. But as you can see, it's simple as going along here, and then go back here and go on the inside of the rail the best I can between that guard. Now, in this case, normally I only paint. Some people may argue with me on this one or disagree. On my layout, I only paint what you see that's facing
the operator, if you will. In this case, since this is my swing gate bridge, this is where people will be entering and exiting the layout, or people who maybe come by and visit the layout. They'll see this. This will be their first, I guess, one of the first impressions, I guess is the word I'm looking for, of the layout. And so I want to make sure that it looks the best. So on this case, I will end up painting both sides of the rail. I'm not going to do that here for you while you're, and bore you with painting all this rail, but just to kind of show you, I'm using the same brush. And these, while you can wear out the little foam piece, but as you can see now that once you kind of get your groove with these, your feel for them, you can actually get moving pretty good with them. And I just simply go along here, and then when I start seeing it kind of run out, like I said, I just go back, and right there where initially there's a whole bunch, I just kind of keep going back to it and feather it out like I'm doing. And then we'll go to this rail on the inside. And yes, I'm gonna, like the acrylic paint that I put on first to weather the ties. Yes, once this dries, and then once I get all of these, you can even turn it on the side like this too, I found too. When you this brush has lasted me this long. So thank God they sell them in a sense of bulk pack. So I'll take that, set that down, and actually I'm to the point where it's more or less wore out. I'll go back here and grab a new one, and once you get your groove going with this, be honest with you, the rail painting, once you get your feel and whatnot done or down, painting the rail goes actually pretty quick, quicker than one might expect. So I'm going to finish painting this section of rail, use up what little bit of paint I have left in here, and I'll be back here shortly. So this obviously is a different spot, but that's unpainted track with nice shiny rails. And this is the track that we just got done painting, the ties and the rails. And as you can see, it's looks a lot better than what it did. Even the PC board ties look a lot better, and it looks more prototypical. So as you can see, painting track, it may seem daunting depending on how you go about it. To some people, airbrushing and all that, it's easier for them. Airbrushing is easier, but I guess the way I look at it is by the time I set up my airbrush and I mask off the backdrop and stuff like that, it's just as easy to hand paint it. Now, if you're laying your track, and after you get your track laid, before you do anything else and you want to airbrush it, yes, you can go that way too. But given my scenario, my situation, I prefer to hand paint it. I feel like I can get a better look. It's not as uniform of a look, so it's more prototypical in my opinion. So thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody watching these videos. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook under Kansas City Southern, Iowa Eastern Division. And if you like the video, you like what you see here, go through our, their old model railroad talk. We're converting over because I'm not doing the podcast anymore. Go back through some of the old videos. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing. And hit that bell icon too, so you can get notification every time a video comes out. I cannot tell you
how often I'm going to do videos. Right now that I'm off work with my back, I'm going to try to put out some videos, or at least get some videos set up to where I can put them out. I know when it gets closer for me to get back to work, I'm going to be kind of trying to create more videos and banking them. So, because I know once I get back to work, I'm going to be busy. But I'm going to try my best to keep putting these out in regular fashion. I'm hoping to get actually some videos, actually doing some operating. You can kind of see right here over my shoulder, there's one camera and there's one up here. I've got two more. I've got to figure out where I want to put them. And I'm thinking of ordering another two more for a couple different spots, but I got to figure out the logistics of that. So as soon as I do, you will know. So thanks for watching. Like I said, like and subscribe this. And subscribe to the channel and check us out on Facebook. Also check us out on TikTok, Model Railroad, or I'm sorry, it was formerly Model Railroad Talk. It's Kansas City Southern, Iowa Eastern Division on there. So thanks for watching. And like we've always said all along, keep your train on the tracks.